Finding a good position.
What is idyll? My niece asked me recently. I love it when the wind blows through my apartment. It feels like it's a ship, like being on the deck of a ship. During the last 3 sentences, I have changed the position of my foot 3 times because the sole of my foot is cramping again. It has gradually moved upwards. I sit on 2 kitchen stools, foot first forwards, then on the stove, and finally vertically on the kitchen wall shelf, because this puts the least weight on the sole of my foot. My niece calls this the cat cleaning position. The wind is pleasantly cool. It's warm outside in summer, not too hot. The wind moves things. It moves the leaves of my mint plant on the bar, brushes the delicate bouquet of wild flowers, the graceful stems, blossoms and buds of poppies, daisies, cornflowers and delphiniums. Even the curtain in the living room, which I can see from the kitchen because all the passages are open, catches a light draught. Merge. How to merge if you're an island? With what? With whom to merge? What do I need to connect to when I want to merge? What other can I find? Is merging as an island, I, self, possible? Yes, it is possible through movement. It is possible to move and merge my own movement with the next one, the one before, repeat it, go back, blur, merge. I am merging with the movement. This doing creates a drive, a passion, a relation, and almost a meaning of the movement. It was impossible to merge without space, or rather an object, to merge an object with one another, to become the connective tissue, the liquid, the fascia, the one that recognizes or constitutes a connection. The possibility to connect two or more. To merge is to become, is to dissolve, to dare to dissolve. Merging is something I cannot do.
merging with a surface, a space, an object, the edges of another person's space. A person, two body parts become one, merging through the surface of my skin. Two mergers can become a new entity. When do they replace or produce another singularity? When two bodies merge, do they become a new body? Or an event like music and dancer merge and it becomes dance?
This is an excerpt from the book Sonic Possible Worlds by Salome Vögelin. Chapter 1. The Landscape as Sonic Possible World. Fallen leaves sound the rhythm of my walking as a recurrent surf. Each movement blends into the other. No single footsteps, just waves. I adjust my gait to its sound and deliberately exaggerate the stretched out continuity. Searching for more pools of leaves, I avoid naked pavements, exposing my tread, preferring instead to stay in the shadow of my sound. It is a sound of memory and perennial joy at the weather turning cold. It sounds the idea of autumn as an iconographic sound. A sonic emblem that sounds its emblematicness through my participation and thus is clearly not an icon at all, eschewing the concept of distance and idolatry. Instead, the sonic emblem is subjective and reciprocal. I activate it and hear it sounding us together as a socio-symbolic relationship that creates the time and place we are in, not as an ideal, but as a moment of coincidence, until the pavement turns grey and empty, and on my footsteps pound the monotone of swept streets.
This is an excerpt from the book Sonic Possible Worlds by Salomé Fegel. We are in the acoustic environment, and it is around us all the time, unavoidably and inexhaustibly. Here it is, and here we are, as in a virtual embrace. Sound forms an extensive and mobile vicinity, fleeting and grasping all at once. We are in sound, and simultaneously sound ourselves. We are in the acoustic environment through our listening to that which we hear. In this way, we complete each other as reciprocal hearers and heard. The acoustic environment is the world in sound and makes a sonic world. This world formlessly does what we think we see as a certain form. It is built continually from sonic relationships of things and subjects, thinking a contingent place. This is a time-space place in which we too, our temporal-spatial things, thinking intersubjectively with what we hear. We are in its midst, not necessarily at its center, but nevertheless embedded in its ephemeral materiality that shows us our own transitory self. Listening, we are continually made aware of this fleeting subjectivity, and we are reminded also that the world is not only in front of us, the aim of our action, but that we inhabit it as a 360-degree environment, which sounds the result and consequence of our actions too. In this sense, listening affords us a different sense of the world and of ourselves living in this world. It affords a different relationship to time and space, objects and subjects, and the way we live among them. The landscape as sonic possible world explores the landscape through its sound, to hear it as an environment, a time-space place that does not present us with a vista, but grants us access to the mobility of its own production. The suggestion is that the soundscape offers an alternative perspective on the landscape, producing new ideas on how it could be, and how we could live in it as in a sonic world, and how therefore we could validate the reality of sound's invisible formlessness in relation to the visible and formed actuality of the world. Listening allows us to focus on the invisible dynamics that are hidden beneath a visual perception and its linguistic organization. It gives us access to what is there if we look past the object into the complex plurality of its production. And it shows us the world through relationships and processes, reminding us of the ideological and aesthetic conditioning that determines any sensory engagement.
Compress. To compress you and be compressed by you, a squeeze, a gentle pull towards the center of your insides, as if we wanted to move our particles through each other's muscles. Compressing, when done simultaneously, leads to an upwards movement, a kind of lifting, climbing against gravity, which is interesting as the quality would suggest heaviness, but on the contrary. Am I compressing your body, or does my body, in order to be compressed, need another material to compress it towards? A force, a direction. We could also compress the endless space between our bodies. And as much as we compress them, our bodies don't dissolve into each other. Instead, the force transforms and our bodies become an upward moving conglomerate. The church bells are now ringing for the second time. This time I hear them from the other side, from the other window. Through this kitchen window, about 10 minutes earlier, while I'm waiting for the coffee in the espresso pot, I hear familiar music. But I can't quite place it. Somewhere between pop and traditional, loud music. From a car passing below, then stopping. It's nice music, I like it. The rhythm is catchy, not too fast, with a typical, lyrical, somewhat wistful, emotional, vocal and string melodies. That's how I would describe it. A male voice sings. I have to go to the bathroom. It's annoying to interrupt the writing. Everything takes longer and nothing can be done at the same time. Take crutches, get off the kitchen stool, sit with the coffee and wait for it to boil. Don't move away from the stove in the meantime. No rushing is possible. The ibuprofen starts to work and the cramp-like pain in my stomach begins to subside. Normally, I avoid taking painkillers when I have menstrual cramps, but this time I don't have the patience to put up with it. It's too much effort to prepare a Temfor. My thoughts are moving in this direction. How strong these cycles are. We can try to neutralize them, but giving them space means following the body, not the will, the projects, the plans, the ambition, the duties, back to the music. I am usually skeptical of performances that include a lot of props, especially if they include plastic foil. But what if they become necessary to perform, move at all? On the other hand, props really have a long history in all kinds of cultures and dances, like fans. In one work, I once had to work with a champagne glass and then throw it on a musical cue far enough so it doesn't roll back on stage, but precisely aim at that part of backstage where it would not break or sound too loud when it hit the floor. Cheers. Floor and expectation. As a dancer, what do you expect from the floor? I think the floor is a space itself, and it defines how I can relate and move through a space. The mat makes it hard not to move, like as if in a yoga class. It doesn't really allow you to slide, for example. I never was so interested in working with restriction. I wonder, considering the overall situation. How can one seriously argue for better dance floors? Another anecdote. In another piece, the costume turned into the prop, a screaming red flag, which I had to swing as a symbol of glory and victory in war against the English troops, as Jeanne d'Arc, of course. It gave me a lot of pleasure to swing and wave this fabric wildly and generously in figure eights above my head. As it was coming off, enveloped and developed and unfolded from my pelvis area. So it kind of was heavily symbolizing the female warrior power. Anyway, I was defeated soon afterwards. You know how the story goes. I am a little bit tired of language replacing dance experience, or language as dance experience, or to make dance experience legible. Back to the floor. My grandmother always was skeptic of apartments or rooms without carpets. I get it now, but for different reasons. For her, it was all about not damaging the wooden floor, and I am wondering why on earth we build concrete surfaces all over the land. I want my apartment ground to be covered with moss, and the stage as well, but there was not enough money. It's the straight and even, the entirely flat surface that my feet can't stand on. Feet need undisciplined ground, something to feel and discover, to communicate with. Irregular, with holes and points, soft and edgy, rough, spiky spots, a porous surface to be in touch with.
My knees and my butt locking, tensing up, and then unlocking, releasing tension. Wind in my ears, wet armpits, cigarettes, perfume, footsteps, trains. Noticing how the practice becomes more and more mindful with the time passing by, all while losing track of time. A wish of hearing more. Expecting to hear something, but then not hearing it. Footsteps appear and disappear in wind. Silence. Was there any? Sound bubbles under the trees of the park. Walking patterns become choreography. leaving something behind as I'm branching out. What happens to the branches left behind? Are they dead? How precious are they? Or not? Are there one or more physical roots in the body? Feet as roots. Feet as roots. Fragility. What is the texture of branching?
Started to interlock my body with itself and the space around it. What parts of my body, of my kinetic body, are actually gaps that leave a space for another body? Closely related to folding. In order to interlock, I need to fold, and later establish the connection without touch into Nim's moving body. Thank you.